In Nepal, since 2000, there have been 32 deadly plane crashes. High above Pokhara, First Officer Anju is on her last flight before she can be called a captain. She's only 5 minutes away from landing, but she's trying an approach she's never done before. Beside her in the cockpit is her instructor, who is carefully watching and guiding her. Just when everything seems to be going smoothly, an alarm goes off in the cockpit. The plane has lost all power. The engines have stopped working. The aircraft starts to fall. They're only 500 feet above the ground, and the runway is very close, just a minute away. Anju tries to increase the power lever. Nothing happens. She pushes it to its maximum. Still nothing. The senior pilot quickly takes over. The plane keeps falling. They can see the runway, but suddenly the plane starts turning left. Will the 72 people on board land safely? Or will this turn into another tragic event in Nepal's aviation history? Let's dive into this intense story of Yeti Airlines Flight 691. It's a clear, sunny day in Kathmandu, the bustling capital of Nepal. And today is a special day for First Officer Anju Khatiwada. For her, it's like a dream coming true. Originally trained as a nurse, Anju decided to become a pilot after her husband, Captain Deepak Pokhrel, died in a plane crash in Nepal in 2006. 4 years after the tragedy, she went to the United States to train as a pilot. In 2010, she returned to Nepal and joined Yeti Airlines, the same company her husband worked for. She is one of just 6 female pilots at the airline, with over 6,400 hours of flying time. Flying with her today is Senior Captain Kamal KC, a veteran with about 22,000 hours of flying experience who joined Yeti Airlines in 2009. He usually conducts the final checks before a pilot's promotion, which is why he's on this flight today. Their route is between Kathmandu and Pokhara. Pokhara is not just Nepal's second biggest city. It's a stunningly beautiful city, right in the heart of the country. Recently, it has become known as Nepal's tourism capital because it's the gateway to the magnificent Annapurna range in the Himalayas, attracting many international tourists. To serve these visitors, a new international airport was built between 2016 and 2022, and it just opened 2 weeks ago on New Year's Day, 2023. Now, let's get familiar with Pokhara. Kathmandu is about 150 kilometers in this direction. The new airport is located just 3 kilometers east of an older one. The runways, labeled 12 and 30, usually see planes from Kathmandu landing on runway 30 via a direct approach. Runway 12, which doesn't have an officially published visual approach, led Yeti Airlines to develop an internal one. This path keeps planes away from the mountains by making tight turns at lower altitudes, but does not meet the standard criteria for a stabilized visual approach. Today's aircraft, an ATR 72500, is a turboprop regional airliner ideal for short journeys. At 16 years old, this aircraft first served with India's Kingfisher Airlines, then Thailand's Nok Air, before Yeti bought it in 2019. It's known for being reliable, and this particular one was in excellent condition. Anju and Captain Kamal were scheduled for 2 round trips to Pokhara today. The flight from Kathmandu to Pokhara takes just 26 minutes. On her check ride, Anju sits in the commander's left seat with Captain Kamal to her right. Their first approach to Pokhara went smoothly with a safe landing on runway 30, as directed by ATC. After a quick 30-minute turnaround, the plane was boarded again, refueled, and taxied to the runway. Taking off from Pokhara, they returned to Kathmandu 26 minutes later, without any issues. The next leg, however, would be filled with challenges. Anju was just 30 minutes of flight time away from completing her 100 hours required to become Captain Anju. All she needed was for this flight from Kathmandu back to Pokhara to go smoothly. In the cabin, flight attendant Oshin Magar is getting ready for the flight. A popular Nepalese TikToker, she took a moment to film and upload a cheerful video for her followers. As 72 passengers, including 4 Indian tourists, live streaming on Facebook, board the aircraft, Anju and Captain Kamal prepare in the cockpit. Let's focus on the center console, which will be crucial in today's events. On the left, a lever controls the speed brake, emergency brake, and parking brake, surrounded by the power levers. And all the way to the right is a flap switch shaped like a wing. Between the power lever and the flaps lever lies the condition lever, essential for our understanding. Stepping outside, the ATR uses large fans for thrust, powered by spinning wings, essentially what propellers are. They create lift in the forward direction. But there are times during a flight when you don't want extra momentum, like during taxiing or in an engine failure. This is when you feather the propellers, aligning them with the wind to minimize drag. And that lever in the cockpit? It feathers the propellers, stopping forward thrust when necessary. Returning to our story at Tribhuvan International Airport in Kathmandu, the crew has just completed one circuit to Pokhara and is gearing up for the second leg. The plane pushes back, taxis to the runway at 10:20 a.m. and departs at 10:32 a.m. Over the Himalayas and 15 miles from the airport, they contact Pokhara ATC, cleared for a straight-in approach on runway 30, just like earlier. But Captain Kamal, wanting to make sure Anju is familiar with runway 12 as well, requests this approach, which isn't approved by Nepal Aviation Authority and hasn't been trained by the crew, increasing their workload. Reaching their descent top at 10:51 a.m. and 6,500 feet, about 5 miles from the airport, Anju pulls the power lever to idle, starting their descent. As speed hits 180 knots, she calls for flaps 15, which Captain Kamal sets. At 170 knots, he lowers the gear, they complete the crosswind leg, and turn left for the downwind leg, visible to ATC thanks to clear skies. At 10:56.27, the pilot monitoring turns off autopilot at 721 feet. 5 seconds later, as speed dips below 150 knots, Anju requests flaps 30. Captain Kamal, juggling monitoring, training, and navigating a new tight approach, is overwhelmed. He acknowledges flaps 30 in descent, but mistakenly shifts the condition lever to feather, halting propeller thrust. Unaware, he announces, "Flaps 30 and descending." 5 seconds later, the master caution chimes. Engine sounds alter. With no forward thrust, Anju tries to adjust the power lever from 41% to 44%, but the plane continues to lose altitude. Desperately, she maxes out the lever, but to no avail. Kamal, taking over, scans for faults, noticing the flaps at 15, not 30, and corrects them. However, the intense cockpit workload blinds them to the misplaced condition lever. As flaps hit 30, drag increases without power, and 4 seconds later, the stick shaker warns of an imminent stall. The left wing stalls from insufficient speed, while the right wing still lifts, spinning the plane left. Nothing more can be done. At 10:57:32, the aircraft crashes into a gorge by the Sethi Gandaki River. First Officer Anju, Captain Kamal, Flight Attendant Oshin Nagar, and 69 others perish. There are no survivors. During the crash, 4 Indian tourists in the cabin livestream the tragic landing, the video rolling even during the accident.